Hey, welcome to Introduction to Espresso. This is a course I used to teach back in 2019. So if any of it's out of date, sorry. Hopefully it's helpful. Really quickly at the top, if you like this content and want more of it, can you email me at groundedcoffeebook@gmail.com. So today we're going to be talking through extraction styles, how to prepare espresso. We'll talk through dose, yield, and time as extraction parameters, and we'll summarize recipe building. Okay, I really like Babinski's definition of espresso. Anything lovely that comes out of that machine over there. But I think it's worth acknowledging that espresso is stylistically driven. You can say you like beer, but hate IPAs. So many people have such strong opinions about espresso. You might like an Italian style, you might like an Australian style, you might like a New York circa 2012 style, you might like the contemporary stuff that you're seeing in Denver, in Austin, in San Francisco today. The reality is that extraction is a process of pulling flavor from coffee. It's informed by your quality of water, it's informed by the recipe you use, the quality of ingredients, the freshness of those ingredients. My training modules are designed to take all of the guesswork out of espresso extraction and help you identify a style that you enjoy the flavor of. Help you understand how to leverage your ingredients or how to optimize your setup at home. The reality is that you have to figure out what you like. I think that this approach to a training module, understanding extraction, understanding style, understanding the actual mechanics of espresso extraction, helps give you the tools you need to identify what you like, what you don't like, and dial in according to taste, making something beautiful in the cup, and not just something that's like technically accurate or technically good. Something that you like is the goal. Okay, so really quickly, here's a sample espresso machine. We're looking at a GS3 from La Marzocco. You may not have this machine, that's okay. And notice that we're not looking at the guts of the machine. We're not looking at the internal components of the machine. Any one of these pieces, whether it be the portafilter, the steam wheel, the group head diagnostic gauge, any of these pieces can be modified, they can be improved upon through a better model machine. If you're thinking about what machine is right for me, the machine that's right for you is the machine that you can get your hands on. It's the machine that you can play with, that you can pull shots on. That might be your parents' espresso machine. That might be your best friend, your neighbors. That might be the machine you buy after watching this video. My point is, take the time to get to know your machine. All right, let's talk about how to prepare espresso. I like to keep it simple. Grind your coffee, settle your coffee, pull your shot. There are so many tools you can buy. There's so many ways you can upgrade. There's so many ways you can compensate for a bad grinder or a clumpy grinder or humidity that makes your coffee clump. You can get tools, yeah. But so many people have such a hard time doing the basics. I really want to focus on the basics today. So you've ground your coffee, you've settled your coffee. Let's just take a moment really quick. Tamping, you want to tamp evenly. That means setting yourself up for success by creating muscle memory that you can do each time. Now you can get a tamping machine, that's cool. It's also like $500 that I wouldn't spend. But for tamping essentials, you really want to be focused on, can I get the coffee to be compressed in the portafilter basket? Can it be level? And can I do that without hurting my elbow over the next year doing it 600 times, 900 times, however many shots? Let's say you're drinking 3 shots a day. So what is that? Over 1,000 times. Set your body up for success and make sure that you get a nice, even bed of coffee to make sure that you can pull a nice, clean shot that doesn't channel. Okay, so I switched espresso machines on this slide. Hopefully it doesn't throw people off. You've got your coffee ground. You've ground your coffee, you've settled your coffee, you've tamped your coffee. Your coffee looks good, it smells good, it's super dry. We're gonna load it into our machine. We're going to twist the portafilter into the group head. we're going to turn on the espresso machine and we're going to see what in the world comes out. Hopefully it's delicious. Okay, so you might be following along at home and thinking, oh, well, that's not the machine that I have. It is different. How will I do it? I get it. Espresso machines, if they work, they functionally do the same thing. And so we want to take a second and say that first shot that you pull, you grind some amount of coffee, you put some amount of pressure on the tamp, you start to establish the basic, workflow. The shot that you pull might taste good, but it most likely tastes absolutely terrible. We want to start to understand the recipes that we will use to not only isolate the flavors we're looking for, improve the quality of the extraction, but also understand how these pieces relate to each other. So we'll start by looking at dose, yield, and time, and I have them defined here for you on the slide. I measure dose in grams. I measure it to within 1 gram of the intended basket size, and I make sure that we want to use freshly ground coffee. Can you use coffee that's not freshly ground? Yes. Can you go over the intended basket size or less than the intended basket size? Probably yes. Okay, here is grind size in 30 seconds, super simplified. If you have the same amount of water in extraction and you have the same dose of coffee in the extraction, 2 coffees, doses that are ground at the same time, that have the same freshness, etc., all other things being equal, the coffee that is finer will have a slower flow rate of water through that coffee. The coffee that is coarser will have a faster flow rate of water through that coffee. It is with grind size of the dose, right, that you control the flow rate of water through coffee, and therefore can control the extraction speed or the speed of the overall recipe, which we'll measure with time. Okay, so we understand what dose is. Dose is the amount of coffee that you're using. So let's look at yield. Yield is how much beverage you make. Full stop. We're not talking about the quality of the flavor of that beverage. We're not talking about tasting notes. We're not talking about, does it look pretty? Does it look like espresso or espresso that you recognize? It's simply at the pressure the machine pushed, the temperature of the water that the machine had in it, how much beverage did we create? We will then take that information, we will adjust flow rate and time to be able to dial in flavor of espresso. Okay, so flow rate. Flow rate is essentially at what speed does the water flow through the coffee. It is hard to measure. A barista who's really good with thousands of shots of experience will rarely pay attention to flow rate. What they typically are looking for is color of beverage at different points in their extraction cycle or extraction timeline. But essentially the flow rate, what we're looking for here is what is our drop time, which means when do we first see beverage emerge from the portafilter. We're also looking for our wait at 20 seconds. Assuming that we're working with a recipe that is approximately 20 to 40 seconds, what we want to identify is how fast is water moving through this coffee. You'll notice in this example, we have about 11 or 12 grams of beverage made in about 20 seconds. What you'll be able to do, if you understand how to pay attention to flow rate, you'll be able to identify, hey, this shot is performing the way I thought it was going to because the flow rate's consistent with the other 1,000 shots I pulled of this coffee at this temperature. If it's significantly off, you might be able to save yourself 10, 20 seconds and identify, oh, I actually need to adjust my grind size to adjust for flow rate because it's behaving a little funny today. Now, also putting in a quick tag here that it might be behaving funny today because I haven't ground this coffee in this grinder yet today. The coffee grinder might be a little bit cold, or I don't know, there was some other extraneous factor, like I had to let the dog out between tamping and pulling my shot, and in that amount of time something changed. Who knows? Anyway, pay attention to flow rate. Okay, so then what is yield? Yield is how much beverage did I make? What I'm looking for is what is the amount of coffee that I made in an X number of second extraction in this cup. If it wasn't obvious, you should be pulling into a demi-tasse or a cup or some vessel that you can catch your espresso, a bowl for all I care. But in a manual espresso extraction, right, we're thinking about a machine that is, you turn it on, you turn it off, you start and stop the flow of water. We are going to anticipate yield by identifying how much beverage have we created in X number of seconds. And you can use that coupled with your knowledge of this coffee, coupled with your knowledge and expectations around flow rate, to identify, hey, am I going to produce the right amount of coffee in a number of seconds, an amount of time that makes sense for this extraction? So then what is time? Time, or elapsed time, refers to the amount of time it takes to extract a beverage, and it can be a very helpful tool in predicting flavor outcomes. I realize I just read this off the sheet, but I think it's worth saying out loud, right? You are using dose and grind size to control for flow rate to get an extraction that occurs in a set amount of time. How much time? Well, that is going to be a really good question that I will answer in the rest of my, 22 other modules. The idea here is this: the right amount of time is going to change from a lot of factors, right? You might be at sea level and find that the coffee you're using today extracts best in 30 seconds at a 2-to-1 ratio, where you have 2 parts water to 1 part coffee. So your yield weighs twice what your actual dose is. You might find that you prefer a shot in 15 seconds that tastes different. My guess is if it's like a medium roast and it's a 15-second shot, it's probably pretty acidic and zippy. But the point is this: we're going to use dose, yield, and time to create espresso recipes. If you are creating an espresso extraction, you need to understand your dose, yield, and time, and the tamping pieces, the settling pieces, the grind time pieces all start to inform the style of your extraction. Because what they start to allow you to do is they create tools that allow you to identify, how does this coffee perform? Can I adjust its performance by using grind size, by using, technically you could use tamping strength. You could use the flow rates by adjusting the pressure in your machine or the temperature of your machine. You can adjust all of these characteristics to create an espresso recipe that you like. But if you do not nail down the basics by using a scale, by using good ingredients, by actually measuring these pieces, it is extremely difficult to dial in really exceptional espresso. Okay, so that is the bare bones. It's like 15 minutes. It's really, really basic introduction to espresso. My name is Gregory. I published a coffee cookbook in 2017 called Grounded Coffee Book. I would be happy to share more of this content. Like I said earlier in the video, there's maybe conservatively 25 modules that are going to explain grinding technology, flavor, origin. I get into the different automations in espresso machines. So gravimetrics, volumetrics, chronometrics. I also get into triangulation and gamification for training baristas, how to think about different roasting styles and extraction or common extraction recipes that support those styles of roasting. We also take pretty deep dives into coffee densities, both measuring density and anticipating density based on origin, based on roasting style, and then adjusting espresso extractions to accommodate. I get into some of the pieces around latte art and how to build an espresso program if you're an aspiring coffee shop owner. So yeah, any questions or requests, I don't know, whatever, shoot me an email. It's a crazy world out there. Be safe, have fun.